Jake Morrison walked down the long white hallway for the last time. His black boots clicked on the shiny floor as he carried his briefcase. 3 months ago, he had been the human ambassador to the Galactic Council. Today, he was just another human leaving. The tall glass doors of the council building slid open as he stepped outside. The purple sky of Nexus Prime stretched above him. Flying cars moved between the crystal towers of the alien city. Jake had called this place home for 5 years. Now he would never see it again. His phone buzzed. A message from Earth Command said simply, "Operation Silent Moon is go. All humans return home now." Jake smiled for the first time in weeks. Finally, humanity was done playing games with aliens who thought they were better than everyone else. Across the galaxy, Captain Lisa White stood on the bridge of her cargo ship, the New Horizon. She had been loading supplies at Kepler Station when the order came through. Every human ship, every human worker, every human family, they all had to leave. Right now. "Captain, the station master is asking why we're leaving so fast," said her pilot, a young man named Rick. "Tell him we got a family emergency back home," Lisa said. She watched through the big window as dozens of human ships started their engines. The aliens at the station looked confused as ship after ship pulled away from the docks. Lisa had been trading with aliens for 10 years. She knew they thought humans were weak and stupid. The council always made humans pay more taxes and follow more rules than other species. They never let humans vote on important matters. They treated Earth like a child instead of an equal partner. But humans were patient. They had been watching and learning for 50 years since first contact. Today, that patience would pay off. On the council station, alien traders watched in shock as every human ship left at the same time. The Zenthari dock workers scratched their scaled heads. The bird-like avians flapped their wings nervously. Something big was happening, but no one knew what. High Chancellor Vextal sat in his golden chair in the council chambers. His lizard-like face showed no emotion as his aide whispered the news in his ear. Every human diplomat had resigned. Every human trade representative had left their post. Every human military officer had returned to Earth space. "Let them go," Vextal said with a wave of his clawed hand. "Humans are like children. They throw tantrums when they don't get their way. They will come back when they get hungry." The other council members nodded. The Andromedans looked pleased that the troublesome humans were gone. The Federation representatives smiled coldly. They had never liked how humans asked so many questions and suggested so many changes. Prime Minister Keshara of the Andromedans spoke in her musical voice. "Perhaps now we can conduct business properly, without human interference." They were always so emotional about everything. But not everyone was happy. In the back rows, representatives from smaller species looked worried. The Deltans whispered among themselves. The Proxima colonies shifted uncomfortably in their seats. These species knew something the big powers didn't. Humans did most of the actual work that kept the galaxy running. On Earth, President Matt Johnson sat in his office reading reports. Every human was coming home. The evacuation was going perfectly. 50 years of careful planning was finally happening. His aide, a woman named Carol Thompson, brought him more updates. "Sir, the last transport just left the Rigel system. All humans are out of council space. The barrier around our solar system is ready to activate." "Do it," Matt said. Across human space, giant machines that had been built in secret for 20 years came online. A wall of energy surrounded every human world. No alien ship could get through. No alien probe could find them. Humanity had just vanished from the galaxy. Back on Nexus Prime, emergency meetings started within hours. The Council's computers showed that human ships were no longer responding to any calls. Human colonies had gone completely dark. The human embassy building stood empty. "This is impossible," said General Throck of the Hegemony military. "You can't just hide entire star systems." But the evidence was right there on their screens. Where human colonies had been marked on galactic maps, there was now nothing. Ships sent to check found empty space where human worlds should be. The first real problem showed up the next day. The Rigel Shipping Company, which moved cargo between thousands of worlds, stopped all operations. 70% of their workers were human. The company's alien managers didn't know how to run the ships or maintain the routes. Within a week, food shipments to dozens of worlds were delayed. Medical supplies sat in warehouses because no one knew the human delivery codes. The automated defense systems around many colonies started having problems because their human technicians were gone. Dr. Amy Rodriguez worked late in her secret laboratory on the edge of human space. She had been developing new technologies for years, waiting for this day. Around her, other human scientists worked on projects that would shock the galaxy. Humans had been learning and growing while the aliens thought they were standing still. "How long until the council realizes what's really happening?" asked her assistant, a young man named Steve. "Give them a month," Amy said, adjusting her equipment. "They're too proud to admit they need us, but when their systems start breaking down, they'll panic." Amy was right. By the end of the first week, 3 trade routes had become dangerous because human patrol ships were no longer protecting them. Pirates attacked a Federation convoy, something that hadn't happened in 20 years. By the end of the second week, 2 agricultural worlds reported crop failures. Their human farming experts were gone, and no one else knew how to work the advanced growing systems. By the end of the third week, the council was holding emergency meetings every day. The galaxy was falling apart without humans, and no one wanted to admit it. High Chancellor Vextal stared at the reports on his desk. Every day brought new problems. Trade was breaking down. Security was failing. Entire systems were asking for help that the council couldn't provide. "Maybe we should try to contact the humans," suggested his aide. Vextal's eyes flashed with anger. "Humans are a young species. They depend on us, not the other way around. They will return when they realize they cannot survive alone." But deep inside, Vextal was starting to worry. The humans had been more important than anyone realized. And now they were gone, leaving the galaxy to figure out how much they had really needed the stubborn species from Earth. Colonel Ben Parker stood in the empty command center of Fort Liberty, humanity's largest military base outside the solar system. Red lights flashed as his team destroyed the last of the sensitive equipment. 20 years of human military presence in the Outer Rim was ending in a single day. "Colonel, the last transport is ready for departure," said Lieutenant Kate Adams, his second in command. "All personnel are aboard." Ben nodded as he watched the data cores being wiped clean. The aliens would find nothing useful here. Every piece of human technology, every tactical plan, every strategic analysis, all of it was being erased or taken home. "Sir, why are we really doing this?" Kate asked quietly. "The official reports don't tell the whole story." Ben stopped working and looked at her. "Because we're tired of being treated like children, Lieutenant. For 50 years we've been the galaxy's janitors. We fix their problems, fight their wars, and keep their systems running. But do we get a vote in the council? Do we get equal treatment? No. We get patronizing smiles and higher taxes." He gestured to the screens showing galactic news feeds. "Look at what they say about us. Primitive humans, emotional humans, violent humans. They take our help and then laugh at us behind our backs. Well, let's see how they do without us." The transport ship lifted off from Fort Liberty's landing pad. Ben watched through the window as the base grew smaller below them. Soon, alien forces would arrive to find empty buildings and dead computers. They would realize that humans had been more prepared for this moment than anyone imagined. Across the galaxy, the effects of humanity's withdrawal were spreading like cracks in glass. On the agricultural world of Ceres Prime, farmers stared at their failing crops. The automated growing systems that human technicians had installed and maintained were breaking down one by one. Farm supervisor Jexara, a green-skinned Deltan, tried to contact the human agricultural experts who had worked on his world for 15 years. Every call went unanswered. The emergency repair manuals were written in human languages that the universal translators couldn't handle. Complex technical terms had no alien equivalents. "We need to harvest the grain in Sector 7, Jexara told his workers. "But the harvesting machines won't start." The machines had been designed by humans and modified by humans. Without human technicians, they were just expensive metal sculptures sitting in the fields. Ceres Prime, which fed 12 other worlds, would soon face food shortages. Similar problems were happening everywhere. The great space elevator on Titan Base stopped working when its human engineers vanished. The water purification systems on New Proxima began producing dirty water because their human operators were gone. The traffic control systems above busy trade worlds started having accidents because human air traffic controllers had managed the most complex routes. Dr. Amy Rodriguez worked in her hidden laboratory, watching news feeds from across the galaxy. Her team had been developing new technologies in secret for years. While the aliens thought humans were just good at fixing their old machines, Amy's scientists had been creating revolutionary new ones. The fusion reactors are ready for mass production, reported Dr. Tony Martinez, her chief engineer. They don't need any of the rare elements that alien reactors require. Any world can build them. Good, Amy said. And the communication arrays? Faster than anything the Council has. We can send messages across the galaxy in hours instead of days. Amy smiled. Humans had been learning from alien technology for decades, but they had also been improving it in ways the aliens never imagined. Soon the galaxy would see what human innovation could really accomplish. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was holding its third emergency meeting in 2 days. The problems were getting worse by the hour. Representative Cole Thresh of the Hegemony stood at the speaking podium, his blue face showing obvious stress. "The shipping crisis is spreading," he announced. "Without human cargo vessels, we cannot move goods between the Outer Rim territories. 3 worlds are already reporting supply shortages." Prime Minister Keshara of the Andromedans looked annoyed. "Surely we can replace human workers with our own people. How difficult can it be to pilot cargo ships?" General Throck laughed bitterly. "You try it. Human pilots know routes that aren't in any computer database. They know which asteroid fields are safe to travel through and which ones will destroy your ship. They know how to negotiate with pirates and smugglers. Our people are getting lost or attacked on routes that humans traveled safely for years." High Chancellor Vextal remained silent, but his aide could see the worry in his reptilian eyes. Each report brought worse news. The human-designed defense satellites around the Vega colonies had stopped working. The automated mining stations in the Kepler asteroid belt were shutting down. Even the entertainment systems on luxury cruise ships were failing because human programmers had created most of the software. "Perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans," suggested Representative Yiltar from the Deltan Republic. "My people have worked closely with humans for many years. They are reasonable beings when treated with respect." The room fell silent. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The idea of negotiating with humans as equals was shocking to many council members. "Impossible," Vextal finally spoke. "The council does not negotiate with species that abandon their responsibilities. Humans will return when they realize they cannot survive without our protection and guidance." But privately, Vextal was beginning to have doubts. Intelligence reports showed that human space was completely sealed off. No probe could penetrate their barriers. No spy could infiltrate their worlds. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the universe. Meanwhile, on distant worlds that were not part of the Galactic Council, interesting conversations were taking place. The Valdari Empire, proud warriors who had always refused to join the Council, received a message from Earth. The Terran Republic, advanced isolationists who kept to themselves, found human ambassadors waiting at their borders. Captain Nicole Barnes commanded the small diplomatic ship that approached Valdari space. Her mission was secret but vital to humanity's future. The Valdari had always respected strength and independence. Now that humans had shown both qualities, perhaps it was time for new alliances. "Valdari Command, this is Captain Barnes of the Human Vessel Determination. We request permission to enter your space for diplomatic discussions." The response came quickly. "Human Vessel, you are welcome. The Valdari have watched your recent actions with great interest. We respect those who stand up for themselves." Nicole smiled. Phase 2 of humanity's plan was beginning. While the Galactic Council struggled with the chaos of their departure, humans were building something new, something better. Back on Earth, President Matt Johnson received reports from across human space. The evacuation was complete. The barriers were holding, and most importantly, contact had been established with dozens of non-council species. "Sir," said Carol Thompson, entering his office with a tablet full of data. "The first cracks are showing. In the council, the Deltan Republic is questioning their membership. The Proxima colonies are asking for emergency aid that the council can't provide, and 3 minor species have sent secret messages asking about joining us." Matt nodded. "And our new friends? Very interested. The Veldari want to discuss military cooperation. The Terrans are curious about our technology. The Centauri Federation is tired of being ignored by the council. We have the foundation for something much bigger than anyone realizes." The galaxy was changing. The old order was crumbling, and humanity was ready to help build something new from the pieces. High Chancellor Vextel paced back and forth in his private office, his clawed feet clicking on the marble floor. 6 weeks had passed since the humans disappeared, and the galaxy was falling apart. His aide, Commander Rixel, stood quietly, holding a tablet full of bad news report. Vextel growled. "The situation is getting worse, sir. The hegemony has lost contact with 4 outer rim colonies. The Federation's trade income has dropped by 60%, and the Kithrin Hive is moving ships toward our border worlds." Vextel stopped pacing. The Kithrin Hive was a collection of insect-like aliens who had been quiet for decades. If they were moving now, it meant they sensed weakness. "What about our attempts to contact the humans?" "All failed, sir. We sent diplomatic ships to the Sol system, but they found nothing. Just empty space where Earth should be. Our scientists say there's some kind of barrier, but our instruments can't detect it." Vextel slammed his fist on his desk. "That's impossible. You can't hide an entire star system." But Commander Steve Mitchell, watching from a cloaked human ship just outside the barrier, knew it was very possible. Human scientists had been working on this technology for 20 years. The barrier didn't just hide human worlds. It made them invisible to every known form of detection. "Sir, council ships are trying to probe the barrier again," reported his sensor officer, Lieutenant Dan Cooper. "Let them try," Steve said with a smile. "Every probe they send through just disappears. They'll never figure out how it works." Steve's ship was one of 50 human vessels secretly watching the galaxy. They saw everything: the growing chaos, the failing systems, the increasing desperation of the council, and they reported it all back to Earth Command. On the planet Rigel 7, panic was spreading through the streets. The automated defense systems that protected the world from asteroid strikes had been offline for 2 weeks. Human technicians had built and maintained those systems for 30 years. Now, with the humans gone, no one knew how to fix them. Governor Peltok stood in his emergency command center, watching his staff try to manually track incoming space rocks. It was hopeless. The system was too complex for anyone but humans to understand. "Sir, we're detecting a large asteroid on collision course with the northern continent," reported his science officer. "Impact in 18 hours. Can we evacuate the area?" "That's 12 million people, sir. We don't have enough ships." Peltok closed his eyes. His world was about to suffer a disaster that could have been easily prevented if the humans were still here. But the council had driven them away, with their arrogance and stupidity. Meanwhile, in the outer rim, the Kithrin Hive was making its move. Admiral Zekmoth commanded a fleet of bioships that looked like giant insects. For 50 years, his people had waited for the right moment to expand their territory. The humans' departure had created that moment. "The council worlds are weak," Zekmoth told his officers. "Their human protectors are gone, their fleets are confused and scattered. We will take what we want." The first attack came without warning. 3 hegemony colonies found themselves surrounded by Kithrin bioships. The local defense fleets rushed to help, but they were used to working with human support vessels. Without human commanders coordinating the battle, the alien fleets moved slowly and made mistakes. Within hours, the Kithrin Hive had conquered 2 colonies and was besieging the 3rd. News of the attack spread panic throughout council space. The humans had been right. Without their rapid response fleets, the galaxy was vulnerable to attack. Director Carol Thompson sat in her office on the human colony of New Terra, watching the news feeds with satisfaction. She had been Earth's intelligence chief for 15 years, and this moment was exactly what she had been preparing for. "Ma'am, we're receiving distress calls from 17 different worlds," reported her assistant, a young woman named Lisa Chang. "They're all asking for human help." "Ignore them," Carol said calmly. "We're pursuing alternative arrangements, remember?" She activated a secure communication channel that connected her to dozens of hidden human facilities across the galaxy. "This is Director Thompson. Begin Phase 3 of Operation Silent Moon. It's time to send our message." The message was simple and devastating. It appeared on every news network, every government communication system, and every public display, screen and council space. Carol's face appeared on billions of screens as she spoke in a calm, pleasant voice. "Greetings to the people of the galaxy. This is Director Carol Thompson, speaking for the human species. We want to thank the Galactic Council for their years of guidance and support. However, we have decided to pursue alternative arrangements for our future development. We wish the Council the best of luck with their future endeavors." The message lasted only 30 seconds, but its impact was enormous. The casual tone, the polite dismissal, the complete lack of anger or emotion, it was devastating. The humans weren't begging to come back. They weren't angry about their treatment. They were simply done with the Council. In the Council chambers, chaos erupted. Representatives shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some blamed the humans for abandoning their responsibilities. Others blamed the Council for driving them away. Everyone was angry, but no one had a solution. "We need to send a military fleet to break through their barrier," demanded General Throck. "Force them to return to their obligations." "With what ships?" asked Representative Colethresh. "Half our fleet is trying to stop the Catheran attacks. The other half is dealing with pirate raids and system failures." Prime Minister Keshara stood up, her musical voice cutting through the noise. "Perhaps we should consider why the humans left. They asked for equal representation in the Council. We refused. They asked for fair trade agreements. We gave them higher taxes instead. They asked to be treated as partners. We treated them as servants. The humans are a young species," Vextal insisted. "They need guidance, not equality." "Young?" Keshara laughed bitterly. "They've been in space for over a century. They've developed technologies we don't understand. They've maintained systems we can't repair. And they've just demonstrated strategic planning that puts our military to shame. Perhaps they're not as young as we thought." But Vextal wasn't listening. He was staring at a report that had just arrived from the Outer Rim. The Catheran Hive had taken 5 more worlds. The defense fleets were in full retreat, and long-range sensors were detecting massive enemy reinforcements approaching from the galactic edge. "How long until the Catheran forces reach the inner systems?" he asked quietly. "At their current rate of advance, 6 weeks," replied his military advisor, "unless we can stop them in the outer territories." "And can we stop them?" The advisor hesitated. "Not without human support, sir. Our fleets aren't designed to fight without human coordination. Our logistics networks can't supply them without human cargo vessels. And our intelligence systems can't track enemy movements without human analysis." Vextal felt a cold chill run down his spine. The galaxy's most powerful military force was helpless without the species they had dismissed as primitive. The humans had been the glue holding galactic civilization together, and now that glue was gone. On distant worlds beyond Council space, human ambassadors were having very different conversations. Captain Nicole Barnes sat across from War Chief Graktar of the Valdari Empire discussing military cooperation. The Valdari had always respected strength, and humanity's bold withdrawal from the Council had impressed them greatly. "Your people show true warrior spirit," Graktar said, his scarred face showing approval. "The Council species are weak and soft, but humans understand that strength must be earned, not given." "We believe in earning our place through actions, not words," Nicole replied. "Perhaps our peoples can learn from each other." Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. The Terran Republic was interested in human technology. The Centauri Federation wanted to discuss trade agreements. The Outer Rim colonies were asking about protection services. Humanity wasn't just leaving the old system. They were building a new one. And this new system would be based on respect, cooperation, and mutual benefit, not the hierarchy and condescension that had defined the Galactic Council. The galaxy was changing, and the humans were leading that change. The question was whether the Council would adapt or be left behind in the ruins of their own arrogance. Admiral Ryan Foster stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as hundreds of ships from dozens of different species moved in perfect formation through space. 3 months ago, these species had never worked together. Today, they were the strongest military force the galaxy had ever seen. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Valdari flagship," reported Communications Officer Jane Miller. "War Chief Graktar wants to confirm the battle plan." "Put him through," Ryan said. The huge face of the Valdari warrior appeared on the main screen. His scarred features showed excitement for the coming fight. "Human Admiral, my warriors are ready. The Kitharan scum will learn what happens when they attack our new allies." "Understood, War Chief. Remember, we're here to protect the innocent civilians, not to conquer territory." Graktar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "You humans always think of the weak ones first. This is why we respect you. You have strength, but use it wisely." The transmission ended, and Ryan turned to look at his tactical display. The Kitharan Hive had taken 12 worlds from the Galactic Council. Their bioships were now only 3 days away from the heavily populated Centauri system. The Council's fleets were in full retreat, unable to coordinate their defenses without human support. But the Council didn't know about the Independent Systems Alliance. For 2 months, humanity had been secretly organizing this coalition of non-Council species. The Valdari provided military strength. The Terran Republic offered advanced technology. The Centauri Federation gave logistical support. Dozens of smaller species contributed what they could. "Sir, we're detecting Council ships fleeing from the Kitharan advance," reported Sensor Officer Mark Wilson. "They're heading straight for our position." "Let them pass," Ryan ordered. "We're not here to fight the Council. We're here to stop the Kitharan expansion." Captain Nicole Barnes commanded the Alliance's lead diplomatic vessel, the Harmony. Her job was to coordinate between the different species in the fleet. It wasn't easy. The Valdari wanted to charge straight into battle, while the Terrans preferred careful planning. The Centauri were worried about supply lines, and the smaller species were nervous about fighting such a powerful enemy. "Captain, the Deltan Republic ships are requesting permission to join our fleet," reported her communications officer. Nicole smiled. The Deltans were still officially Council members, but they had been secretly negotiating with the Alliance for weeks. "Tell them they're welcome. Transmit our coordination frequencies." As the green-hulled Deltan ships joined the formation, Nicole felt a surge of pride. This was what humanity had always been good at, bringing different groups together and helping them work as a team. The Council had treated other species like servants or rivals. The Alliance treated them like partners. On the planet Haven, the Alliance's new capital world, President Matt Johnson met with representatives from over 200 species. The meeting hall was a marvel of engineering, with environmental systems that could support beings who breathed different gases and lived in different temperatures. "The Kitharan attack proves our point," Matt said to the assembled delegates. "The old Council system is failing. They can't protect their own members, let alone the galaxy. We need a new approach based on cooperation, not domination." Ambassador Yiltar of the Deltan Republic stood to speak. Her people had left the Council just days ago, tired of being ignored and overtaxed. "The humans are right. For too long we've accepted a system where a few powerful species make decisions for everyone else. The Alliance offers something better, a voice for all species, regardless of size or power." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. The Proxima colonies had declared independence from the Council and asked to join the Alliance. 3 Federation worlds had voted to leave and seek Alliance protection. Even some hegemony systems were quietly sending diplomatic messages to human representatives. Dr. Amy Rodriguez watched the news from her laboratory on New Terra. Her teams had been working day and night to produce the technologies that would make the Alliance stronger than the Council ever was. Fusion reactors that any species could build. Communication systems that worked faster than anything the Council had. Defensive shields that could protect entire planets. "Doctor, the first batch of fusion reactors is ready for distribution," reported her assistant, Dr. Tony Martinez. "We can power a dozen worlds with this shipment alone." "Send them to the Centauri Federation first," Amy said. "They've been having energy problems since they left the Council's power grid." Amy's screens showed technical specifications that would have shocked the Council's scientists. Human technology had advanced far beyond what anyone realized. While the aliens had been using the same designs for centuries, humans had been innovating and improving everything they touched. "The defensive satellites are ready too," Tony added. "Any Alliance world can have planetary protection within a week of installation." "Good. Make sure the Deltan Republic gets the first shipment. The Council might try to punish them for leaving." Back in Council space, High Chancellor Vextal stared at intelligence reports that made no sense. Somehow, the Catharan advance had stopped. Their bioships were retreating from the Centauri system. Long-range sensors showed massive battles happening in the Outer Rim, but no Council ships were involved. "Who's fighting the Catharans?" he demanded. "We don't know, sir," replied his intelligence chief. "The energy signatures don't match any known Council technology, but the Catharan forces are definitely under attack." Commander Rixall entered the room carrying another disturbing report. "Sir, we're receiving complaints from the Deltan Republic about harassment of their shipping. They're claiming they've left the Council." "Impossible," Vextal hissed. "The Deltans have been Council members for 3 centuries. They can't just leave." "They say they've joined something called the Independent Systems Alliance, sir. They're demanding that we stop interfering with their trade routes." Vextal felt his world crumbling around him. First the humans had vanished, then the Catharans had attacked. Now Council members were leaving to join some mysterious alliance. Everything he had worked for was falling apart. "Find out everything you can about this alliance," he ordered. "And send a diplomatic message to the Deltans. Tell them the Council is willing to negotiate better terms for their membership." But it was too late for negotiations. The alliance was already stronger than the Council realized. Captain Nicole Barnes received reports from across the galaxy. 43 species had joined the alliance. 27 worlds had declared independence from the Council. The Catharan hive was in full retreat after losing half their fleet to alliance forces. The alliance's success wasn't based on military power alone. They offered something the Council never had: genuine equality. Every species got a vote regardless of size. Every world got protection regardless of wealth. Every culture was respected regardless of how different it was from the others. On Earth, Director Carol Thompson compiled the final intelligence reports. The Council was financially ruined. Their military was scattered and demoralized. Their member species were defecting in growing numbers. The old galactic order was collapsing. "Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission from Nexus Prime," reported her assistant. "It's from High Chancellor Vextal himself." Carol smiled coldly. "Put it through." Vextal's reptilian face appeared on her screen, looking older and more tired than she had ever seen him. "Director Thompson, I am prepared to discuss terms for humanity's return to the Council." "I'm sorry, Chancellor," Carol replied in her sweetest voice, "but humanity has found more compatible neighbors. We're quite happy with our new arrangements." "You don't understand," Vextal said desperately. "The galaxy needs human expertise. We're willing to offer you full voting rights, reduced taxes, even a permanent seat on the Executive Council." "That's very generous," Carol said. "But we're not interested in joining the Council. However, if the Council would like to apply for membership in the Independent Systems Alliance, I'm sure our representatives would be happy to consider your application." Vextal's eyes widened in shock. The idea of the mighty Galactic Council applying to join a human-led alliance was unthinkable, but as he looked at the reports on his desk, the military defeats, the economic collapse, the defecting members, he began to realize that the unthinkable might be his only option. The galaxy had changed. The humans hadn't just left the old system, they had built a better one. And that new system was growing stronger every day while the council grew weaker. The age of human patience was over. The age of human leadership had begun. 6 months after humanity's great withdrawal, Captain Tony Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the human rescue ship Mercy as it approached the burning world of Rigel 9. The planet had been under Catharan attack for 3 days before Alliance forces could arrive. Now thousands of civilians needed evacuation. Captain, we're detecting council ships in the area, reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Kate Stevens. They appear to be retreating from the system. Tony nodded grimly. The Galactic Council's military had proven completely unable to protect their own worlds. 3 more systems had fallen to the Catharans in the past week. The once mighty council, fleets ran from battles they should have been able to win easily. Ignore the council ships, Tony ordered. Focus on the civilian evacuation. The people down there don't care about politics. They just want to live. The Mercy was one of 50 Alliance rescue vessels now operating throughout the galaxy. These ships used technology that amazed even the humans who built them. Advanced shields that could protect entire cities, medical bays that could treat any known species, cargo holds that could house thousands of refugees in comfort. Dr. Laura Martinez worked in the ship's medical bay, treating refugees from a dozen different species. The Alliance had taught humanity many things, but humans had taught the Alliance something equally valuable, that strength meant protecting the weak, not conquering them. Doctor, we have Xanthari refugees with radiation poisoning, reported Nurse Lisa Park. The council ships left them behind when they evacuated. Laura's jaw tightened with anger. The council had abandoned their own people to save themselves. Bring them in. We'll treat everyone regardless of what government they serve. On the planet Haven, Ambassador Jake Morrison sat across from High Chancellor Vextal in the Alliance's diplomatic center. The Xanthari leader looked like a broken man. His once proud military uniform was wrinkled and dirty. His reptilian eyes showed desperation and fear. Ambassador Morrison, Vextal said quietly, I am here to formally request the Galactic Council's admission to the Independent Systems Alliance. Jake kept his expression neutral, but inside he felt a surge of satisfaction. For 50 years, Vextal had treated humans like children. He had dismissed their ideas, ignored their contributions, and blocked their requests for equal treatment. Now he was begging for their help. Chancellor, that's an interesting request, Jake replied calmly. But I should point out that the Alliance doesn't accept governments as members. We accept individual worlds and species. Each one gets to vote on their own membership. Vextal's scales paled. You mean the council would have to dissolve? The council can do whatever it wants, Jake said with a slight smile. But if Xanthari worlds want to join the Alliance, they'll need to apply separately. Same with Andromedan worlds, hegemony worlds, and all the others. Each planet gets to choose its own future. It was a masterstroke of diplomatic strategy. The Alliance wasn't destroying the Council through war or conquest. They were simply offering the Council's member worlds something better, a system where every planet had a voice and every species was treated as an equal. President Matt Johnson stood before the Alliance Assembly, addressing representatives from over 300 worlds. The Great Hall on Haven buzzed with dozens of languages as species that had never worked together before debated the future of galactic civilization. The old system failed because it was based on fear and hierarchy, Matt said to the assembled delegates. The powerful species dominated the weak ones. The wealthy worlds exploited the poor ones. The council made decisions for everyone but only listened to a few. He gestured to the diverse crowd before him. Look around this room. Valdari, warriors sit next to Deltan farmers. Terran scientists work with Centauri traders. Human diplomats learn from species we've never met before. This is what the galaxy can become when we treat each other as equals. The applause was thunderous. Representatives from hundreds of worlds cheered in their own languages. The Alliance had given them something they had never had before, hope for a better future. War Chief Graktar of the Valdari stood up, his massive frame towering over the other delegates. The humans speak truth, he rumbled in his deep voice. The old council was weak because it was built on lies. They said they brought peace, but they brought oppression. They said they brought order, but they brought chaos. The Alliance brings real strength because it is built on respect. On distant worlds across the galaxy, the effects of the Alliance were spreading like ripples in a pond. The Proxima colonies had joined 3 months ago, and were already benefiting from Alliance technology. Their new fusion reactors provided clean energy for everyone. Their new communication systems connected them to hundreds of other worlds. Their new defensive satellites made them safer than they had ever been under Council protection. The Deltan Republic had seen similar improvements. After joining the Alliance, their agricultural output had doubled thanks to human farming techniques. Their trade income had tripled thanks to access to Alliance shipping routes. Their children were learning in schools that taught cooperation instead of competition. Even former Council worlds were beginning to see the difference. The planet Andromedas Prime had voted to leave the Council and join the Alliance just last week. Within days, Alliance engineers had arrived to repair infrastructure that had been crumbling for years. Alliance medical teams had brought treatments for diseases the Council couldn't cure. Alliance teachers had opened schools that welcomed all species. Dr. Amy Rodriguez watched from her laboratory as the final pieces of humanity's plan fell into place. Her team had just completed the most ambitious project in human history, a galaxy-wide communication network that could connect every Alliance world in real time. It was faster than anything the Council had ever built and completely free to use. "Doctor, we're receiving the first test signals from across the galaxy," reported Dr. Tony Martinez. "The network is working perfectly." Amy smiled as messages poured in from hundreds of worlds, scientists sharing discoveries, traders announcing new products, children sending drawings to friends on distant planets, artists collaborating on projects that spanned multiple star systems. This was what the galaxy looked like when species worked together instead of against each other. The Galactic Council held its final meeting on a cold winter day on Nexus Prime. Only 12 species still attended. The great hall that had once housed hundreds of delegates now felt empty and hollow. High Chancellor Vextal looked out at the nearly empty seats and felt the weight of his failures. "The Zenthari homeworld has voted to join the Alliance," reported Commander Rixal. "That leaves only the core Council worlds still under our authority." Vextal closed his eyes. Even his own people had abandoned him. The Zenthari military had defected to the Alliance after seeing how well Alliance forces fought against the Kytherans. The Zenthari civilians had voted for Alliance membership after experiencing Alliance aid during the refugee crisis. "Perhaps it's time to consider dissolution," suggested Prime Minister Keshara of the Andromedans. Her own world had already joined the Alliance, but she had stayed to help with the transition. "The Council has served its purpose. Now it's time for something new." The vote was unanimous. After 2,000 years of existence, the Galactic Council officially dissolved itself. The remaining member worlds would apply for Alliance membership individually. The age of galactic hierarchy was over. 1 year later, Ambassador Jake Morrison stood in the same hall where he had once been ignored and dismissed. But now it was the headquarters of the Galactic Federation of Independent Worlds, the Alliance's new official name. Representatives from over 500 worlds filled the seats. Every species had a voice. Every world had a vote. Every culture was respected. "The Federation recognizes the delegate from New Zenthari," Jake announced from the speaker's podium. The irony wasn't lost on him. Vextal's own son now served as a Federation representative, working to undo the damage his father's government had caused. The young Zenthari had embraced Federation ideals completely, becoming one of the strongest advocates for species equality. Children from dozens of worlds played together in Haven's parks. Scientists from hundreds of planets collaborated on research projects. Artists created works that celebrated the diversity of galactic culture. Traders moved freely between worlds without the taxes and restrictions the Council had imposed. The Catharan Hive had been driven back to their original territory and forced to sign a peace treaty. Piracy had nearly disappeared thanks to Alliance patrol fleets. Food shortages were a thing of the past thanks to Alliance agricultural programs. The galaxy was more peaceful and prosperous than it had ever been. Humanity had kept their promise. They hadn't just left the old system. They had built a better one. And they had done it by remembering what they did best, bringing people together, solving problems, and treating everyone with respect. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Real strength didn't come from dominance or fear. It came from cooperation and trust. It came from lifting others up instead of putting them down. It came from building bridges instead of walls. Humanity had shown the galaxy a better way, and the galaxy had chosen to follow.